Local productions on QTV are made possible with support from viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back. I'm Junia Doan, and this is Uncommon Sense. My guest today is Heidi Roberts. Together with her husband, Alan, has developed a deep passion for the cheetah and rhino of Africa. And tell us something about that, would you, Heidi?
Well, of course. We started going to South Africa for going on game safaris or photo safaris. And when we were at a place called Kamjabulani, the woman who started that also had previously started an endangered species center. And we met her, and I wanted to make a donation and ask her if she had any presence in the United States, and she said no. And I said, well, I'd rather have a tax deduction, obviously. So after 2 years back and forth, she said no, she couldn't possibly afford it. She was already losing so much money, and she didn't know anyone in New York. We should forget it. So my husband and I looked at each other and said, nah, then we have to do it. So that's how it started almost 8 years ago.
And what does the center put that money towards?
Well, for instance, last year, we have at the center, because we're a breeding center as well as we release cheetahs that are, nice and wild. Those we can let go out in a controlled environment. Right. Because, when they are born in captivity, they don't have the animal sense. They don't know who's their friend or who's their enemy. So we have to put them in an area that doesn't have lions, leopards, or hyena. And so when that is accomplished, you have them in a place, they will end up hunting. As all cats, they see something running, they run after it, and they'll hopefully catch it. So feeding, also, if we see them getting too thin, we put a little bit of meat out that they will be fine until they get their act together. But once they have babies, their babies will be perfectly wild. They will have then picked up and learned, how to be behaving as a cheetah. That means, if a lion comes, you run away. You leave your prey behind because you cannot tangle with them. They'll kill you.
And tell us the purpose of the center, or how it got started.
Lente started this. She wanted a couple of cheetahs just for fun, because she grew up with cheetahs when she was a little girl.
In South Africa.
In South Africa, exactly. And her husband had then come across somebody who had 27 cheetahs that he couldn't afford anymore. And so he bought them all for her and they built the center. And the center is truly beautiful. The center is not just cheetahs. We have the black-footed African cat, which is also very, very endangered. The male is about 4 pounds, the female about 3.5. They are beautiful and totally wild. These you cannot tame. They will tolerate you, but they are vicious little things. Yeah. And then we have we rescue animals too. They're always, unfortunately, still also in South Africa. It's becoming less so, thank God. People think it's wonderful to have a wild animal as a pet. It's not. It never is, because in the end, they will do damage. And yes. We have had, a couple of years ago, we got a call from Nature Conservancy, and they said, there is a serval. A serval is what now in the United States or all over is being bred to a domestic cat, and then they have a savanna cat.
Okay.
And they're really beautiful animals. They weigh about 25, 28 pounds.
Yeah.
And they can jump very high. I saw them jump up and catch a bird in flight. Well, anyway, this one and then several other servals were let go by their parents. They're parents, human parents, and rub against you like a cat. They go on their back and you can, and they give kisses and everything. But they're still wild cats. So, they will eventually destroy your house because, they need to scratch, they want to be
Yes.
outside. So it never is good to have a wild animal. And there are far too many animals.
But in the material I was reading, there seemed to be people who raised some kind of wild animal from a baby to a certain point and then felt that point had been reached and then bring the animal to the center.
Well, yes, exactly, because they realize it's too much to handle. And, and cheetahs as well. Cheetahs can be, very, very tame. I, a few years ago, got one as a birthday present, a little
Named
8-day-old,
Heidi?
named Heidi, 8-day-old. So she was about this size. It looked like a stuffed toy. And last year, when I came back, I took her on a leash walk because at the center, we also want always some cheetahs that are really very calm and that people can see them
Interactive.
up close and can interact somewhat. Not too much because it really isn't that good. But you can. So, me, of course, I get a lot more close.
But they seem to take in a damaged or
Yes.
A wide variety of animals,
Yeah.
from what I read.
With the rhinos, for instance, it started about 2 years ago. We got a call, and they had found 3 rhinos, two females as well as 1 male, who had been darted by poachers. The male actually ended up dying, but the 2 females were all right, other than that they apparently must have taken a chainsaw and went truly deep into the nasal passage and took every bit of rhino horn that they could. Rhino horn is, I think, about $65,000 a kilo. And these people who are using it as aphrodisiac or cancer cure are, willing to pay all kinds of money for it. So, it is so disturbing because it is very expensive. It's like cocaine or perhaps even more. And these people have a lot of money, so they cannot claim that they're uneducated.
Right.
And quite frankly, I believe, the Chinese government, who knows when you're sneezing, they certainly know who is selling rhino horn, and or elephant tusk, because again, they know when you're sneezing. So don't tell me they don't know who is selling that stuff. But unfortunately, as it is coming on, every year there are less rhinos because they're being poached. So this year we have also 2 baby rhinos that they found next to the bodies of the mothers minus horn. And we now have to, for the next 2 years, hand raise them. We can never let them back into the wild because, they are so used to people. And so they will have to stay at the center, but we have to have guards around too, because again, once they're larger, or not even that large, they will come and try to kill them.
When did your interest in animals start? I know you have dogs.
Yeah, well, we have a dog and a cat, but actually when Alan, we were dating, that's about 22 years ago, he wanted to go to South Africa, and I said, South of France, Bronx Zoo. That's not for me.
Yes.
Well, I did him the favor and I came along. And the first thing, we were on a game drive, and the game driver said, and we'll have to get up tomorrow morning at 5 o'clock. And I said, right, yes, please, I'll sleep longer, you all go. Well, shortly thereafter came an elephant out of the bush in front of the Jeep we were driving, and that was the most exciting thing I've ever seen. So with my little video camera, I probably had 10 minutes of elephant rear end, because I, after that, I would have gotten up at 4 o'clock in the morning. It was so beautiful. And once you used to the bush, and there are no markers who said as you're driving, here's a lion, here's a leopard. I mean, you do drive at many distances, and there is nothing other than maybe a bird or a rabbit or a spider. But you get so into it. You connect to nature. Because it is so different from our living here in New York, which is people, cars, and there it is just quiet, other than the birds, or you may hear a lion roar, or an elephant will toot eventually too sometimes, but it's spiritually just cleansing.
Yes, well, this is good. When you were growing up in Germany, did you have an affinity for animals?
Well, I brought a couple of stray dogs home to the not so much delight of my parents, but we kept them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but otherwise, no. And then, as I went to school and college, I obviously, it was not the right time to have an animal.
When you moved to America as a young woman, what did you have to adapt to? It just seems Germany has one culture and we have another kind of culture here.
Well, Americans are so nice and friendly. We Germans are much more stiff and not as welcoming to foreigners. When I was in Rochester at school, when they had foreign students' evenings where a family would invite you for dinner or for the holidays. And people just have been wonderful. And then I had come here with my parents for the World's Fair. And I loved New York. So eventually I got myself a little apartment in New York. And stayed because it was fun. I always thought Germany had too many Germans. It's wonderful to be in New York, where there is such a mixture. At that time when I was there, there were not that many immigrants, so it is very homogeneous. Whereas here, there are people from all over. That is so much more fun.
Yeah.
So,
More
yes,
variety.
so I became then an American citizen, and
you bring your mother over, too.
Oh, yes, my mom comes every year, and I hope, it will continue because she's now 92, and she still travels by herself. So actually last year, for her 91st birthday, we sent her on safari. She lives in Berlin, and my husband said, well, maybe you should go with her. I said, no, she'll have a much better time going all by herself, and they'll make such a fuss about her. Because, let's face it, there are not that many 91-year-olds who go on safari. So she had the time of her life.
Now, when she came back, did she say anything about what you were talking about, the spiritual presence of being in nature and the inner? What did she say? What did she notice?
For her, it was just being surrounded by so many animals, and some that she had not, seen in the zoo, but not like the cheetahs, and she could actually go and hug and kiss a cheetah on top of the head. Well, that is something indescribable. It's very hard to put in words, but you feel so flattered that they let you do this.
Yes. They accept you.
Yeah.
To the point you can touch them.
Yeah.
Do you find when you're an animal that with an animal that you're wild or semi-wild, that you start relating to them differently than you would a human? Do you go to a different part of?
Well, I suppose so. You go sort of more from the heart, whereas with humans we we are more reserved, whereas with an animal, you're so thrilled that they let you sit next to them, or with an elephant, you give them treats and they don't leave you alone. They follow you.
When you were in the wild and first saw that elephant,
Yeah.
was the elephant used to having, I forget the car they use?
Oh, those jeeps, these
yeah.
open jeeps.
Well, did they have a sort of level of
yes.
curiosity towards
No.
this strange?
No, not seemingly. Now, elephants are so smart.
Yes.
At the center, not at the center, but at Camp Jabulani, where we always stay, which is
Yeah.
on this 55,000-acre family property of Lentis. She also rescued 12 elephants about 12 or 16 years ago, because they were from Zimbabwe, and when the war veterans invaded the so-called war veterans invaded the farms, this was a man who had guided tours around Victoria Fall,
Yes.
and he knew they were going to get killed for meat as well as for their horns, obviously. And so Lente had found out about it, got the proper licenses to bring them into South Africa, came with a whole bunch of trucks, and bought the 12 elephants and brought them back to South Africa, actually with 45 people. Elephants are, their handlers, elephants are so sensitive, and you have to continuously change the people who are with them, because if they're just with one, if that person gets sick or goes on vacation, which they do every few weeks, I think it's 8 weeks work and then 2 weeks off.
Yeah.
So then they get into depression, and then they can become very angry or destructive. So every day, the crew, the two people who are with the elephant, change. But because we have to double up, and also there are an awful lot of animals that need care of people. And, may I add, people sometimes say, how can you raise money for animals when there are people who are so needy and need so many things? And I have my answer now pretty pat after I thought about it for a while, which is, we don't throw the money we raise over the fence and whatever animal catches a dollar bill will run off with it. We have at the center 65 people that are taking care of the animals, which means if we wouldn't have the center, or I couldn't raise the money anymore, and Lente in South Africa, obviously South Africans are helping as well, there would be at least 500 people who wouldn't have something to eat, because families. So we are helping the animals, and the animals help people.
Before your passion for this center, what were you interested in?
Well, history and art. I had studied art history, and so I loved reading, and so I did a lot of reading, and well, I went out a bit too.
When you moved here, what kind of a job did you look for?
Well, at first I really went to New York School of Interior Design and learned decorating, and I did that for a while, just little jobs here and there, but I was not very good at the business part of it, so I gave that up. And then I started working on Wall Street, and in management. My math isn't terribly good, so I would definitely not been good on the floor. But the people I worked for, these were all, I had in the beginning, 6 small specialist firms on the American Stock Exchange who I took care of their stuff. So at one time I had 4 offices in the Gateway Plaza, next to the World Trade Center, and then finally I convinced them one would be fair good, rather
Yes.
than my running back and forth between offices, and they wouldn't have to pay the rent that much.
Yes.
So they thought I was terrific.
So you were doing the back office work for them?
No, I was doing the managing part. No, there is really not much back office. The clearinghouses do all the trades. The bookkeeper and accounting people were doing all their jobs.
Yes.
I just made sure that everything went to where it was
Yes.
supposed to go, signed all the checks. I had all their money. Or
Yes.
I
I
or
see.
the signing.
Manager
I
of
put them.
operations.
Paid some salaries, and I just again had everyone in one bank, my bank. So this way, I only had to go to one. Unfortunately, that was Fiduciary Trust, which was on the 94th and 5th floor on the World Trade Center, and then of course when planes flew into the center, many people got killed there. I stopped working on Wall Street in 2002. Yeah, I was getting so busy doing things, being married, and also I gave that up. So now I'm working again, but it's with the animals, and it's a lot more fun.
It's really a wonderful life.
Oh, I agree. I feel very privileged and lucky to be happily married, have wonderful friends, have a cause that where we really make a difference, and it keeps me busy. So how can you not be happy?
Well, I was just thinking, what if you had stayed in Germany?
Well, my life would have been considerably different. My parents sent me in between after I graduated from the gymnasium. They sent me to it's called daughter school in Old German, where we learned how to set tables and be the proper wife and married and all. And but my parents didn't have that happy a marriage, so I got engaged few times, and but I never really thought that, in the very end it was always, let me wait a little longer, and so my life really much more would have been probably very different. I probably would have ended up getting married sooner, because once parents right next to you, they'll nag you a lot more. and they would say, or my mother would have gone but he's such a nice man, and it's 2 weeks before the wedding. So how can you say, well, I think I made a mistake? But I must say I had a stepfather who was very understanding, and he said, it's better to run out before than after.
What a wise man. What else did he say to you?
Well, he allowed me, I could do what I wanted to do in his library. So I was just thinking the other day, there was an article in the Wall Street Journal talking about what is appropriate for children to read.
Yes.
And they probably would have been, those teachers and all would have been totally horrified. I remember sitting in my father's library, and a friend came in and he says, "Oh, what are you reading?" And I think I was about 10 or 9. I said, "Well, I'm reading the memoirs of Casanova."
Oh.
So he said to my father, "You let your 10-year-old daughters read the memoirs of Casanova?" And he said, "Well, of course, it's good literature, and what she doesn't understand, she'll go back later on and she'll get it."
So we have learned a lot from Heidi, a lot. Have courage. Have the courage to leave your country. Try something new. Develop aspects of yourself, but be wise in the world and let your curiosity guide you to learn about people and to learn about worlds through books, and to forever, in a sense, be true to herself. She couldn't marry the people because they just didn't feel right in some kind of a way for whatever reason. And now happily married to wonderful Alan. And I would suggest that each and every one of you look in your life and find areas that you can be courageous about and live it. Thank you so very much, and we'll see you next time. Appreciate your tuning in.
To contact Junia, send her an email at info@juniadone.com. For more information, program schedules, and news about future guests, go to www.juniadone.com. Thanks for joining us. See you next time for Uncommon Sense with Junia Doan.
Local productions on QTV are made possible with support from viewers like you. Thank you.